First of all, I'd like to apologize on behalf of Deputy Chief Saunders. He got tied up on another matter and he won't be able to attend the conference this morning. As I said, I'd like to thank you for attending here today. I'm joined here today by Detective Sergeant Dave Eklund from the Homicide Squad, in addition to Detective Jeff Allington from number 43 Division. I've asked you to come here today because I wanted to speak to you and inform you about the product of two investigations. One is Project Brazen, and the second one was Project Quell. Quell, Q-U-E-L-L. I'll start by providing you with a brief history of how Project Quell evolved from Project Brazen and the results of those efforts. In the fall of 2011, during a 4-month period, number 43 Division saw a significant increase in the number of shooting incidents that were directly related to the struggle for dominance between two organizations heavily involved in the drug trade in the Orton Park Road area and Galloway Road area. It's alleged that these incidents were linked to a gang feud between two groups identified as the Galloway Boys Gang and the Orton Park Gang, who attempted to occupy control of that area or turf. Project Brazen. The Homicide Squad, with the assistance of resources from Divisional Policing Command and Detective Services, commenced Project Brazen on April 23, 2012. The project came as a result of investigation and analysis and the information gleaned from the Dimitri Barnaby homicide and the investigation into a number of attempt murder events that had occurred in southeast Scarborough. Dimitri Barnaby, at the time of his death, was 24 years of age. On Friday, December 30th, 2011, at approximately 11 a.m., Dimitri Barnaby was in the rear parking lot of 3895 Lawrence Avenue East in Toronto. It was at this time two male suspects came towards the now deceased brandishing a gun. The suspects and the deceased became involved in a physical confrontation, at which time the deceased was shot several times and he succumbed to his injuries. The investigation to date has revealed that Mr. Barnaby, or the Barnaby homicide, was a case of mistaken identity. Investigation also reveals that Mr. Barnaby was not affiliated to either one of these two gangs or groups of individuals. It is the belief of investigators, and it is alleged that the Barnaby homicide and a number of shootings were in fact associated to the escalation in violence between the Galloway Boys Gang and the Orton Park Gang. Project Brazen concluded on the September 22nd, 2012. This project alone resulted in the arrest of 9 individuals who were charged with 54 various criminal code offenses relating to attempt murders, trafficking, firearms, and drug-related offenses. The project was also responsible for the seizure of 5 crime-related firearms. The attempt murder charges stem from the following 4 events. On September 4th, 2011, at 9 p.m., 3 males ranging in age from 18 to 20 years of age were shot in the Domino's Pizza, which is located at 3859 Lawrence Avenue East. All of the males survived their injuries. On November 4th, 2011, at 9 p.m., 25-year-old male was shot at the corner of Firth Crescent and Northfield Road in Toronto. He survived his injuries. Charged with both of these shooting offenses is Adham Kamis, 20 years, and Ramon Williams, 21 years. They're charged jointly with 4 counts of attempted murder, firearm and drug-related charges, and they both remain in custody. These arrests occurred back in September of 2012. On September 2nd, 2012, at 4:30 p.m., the victim, a young person, was in the Chesterley Boulevard area. He was approached by 2 individuals. The young person was shot, and the 2 suspects fled the scene. Charged with this shooting event is a young person, and that young person was charged in September of 2012. He was charged with attempted murder and firearms-related offenses. On September 5th, 2012, a police officer chased a male in the area of the Galloway Public School with the intention of arresting that individual. During the chase, the accused turned, pointed a firearm at the police officer, pulling the trigger a number of times. The firearm did not discharge. The officers subdued and arrested this individual. This individual is a young person and is charged with attempted murder and firearm-related offenses. The sad thing in all of this is that the investigation into the murder of Mr. Barnaby remains unsolved. However, my investigators will continue to investigate this murder to determine who is responsible for his death. Project Quell. After consultation with the Scarborough Crown's Office under the direction of Tony Laparco in June of 2013, Project Quell was initiated. Members of Number 43 Division and the Homicide Squad, with the assistance of members of Number 41, 42, and 12 Division, continued to investigate, analyze, and correlate information that was obtained during Project Brazen. It became clear during this project that these two groups were operating as criminal organizations. To date, members of Project Quell identified a number of persons that were alleged to be members of these gangs. As a result of these investigative efforts, I can advise you of the following. The project is in phases. Phase 1, on July 2nd, 2013, 7 members of the Orton Park Gang were arrested and charged with 138 various offenses, including drug trafficking and firearm-related offenses, including participating in criminal organization. They are Jediah Drummond, 29 years, 80 charges. Wayne Powell, 20 years, 18 charges. Shaquille Small, 19 years, 13 charges. Lamar Blackstock, 24 years, 2 charges. Devontae Davis Biggs, 20 years, 11 charges. There are 2 young persons that are charged in relation to this phase, facing charges jointly of 14 charges. Phase 2. As a result of this continuing investigation and the conclusion of Phase 2, investigators have identified 25 members of the Galloway Boys Gang who now stand charged with up to 225 charges, including participation in criminal organization, conspiracy, trafficking, and drug-related offenses. On Thursday, October 3rd, 2013, arrest teams consisting of members from Number 41, 42, 43 Division, Crew, and Major Crime Units, our Guns and Gangs Unit, under the direction of Detective Sergeant Eklund of the Homicide Squad and Detective Jeff Allington, who are present here today, as I said, from Number 43 Division, were tasked with locating and arrested persons identified during the project. Warrants were executed throughout the City of Toronto, in addition to a warrant in Waterloo and a warrant in London. As a result of their efforts, 8 of the 16 identified persons who are alleged to be members of the Galloway Boys were arrested and charged with various criminal offenses. Andre Charles, 25 years, 3 charges. Malik Crush, 20 years, 6 charges. Ramel Cunningham, 21 years, 3 charges. Ahmed Dunn, 22 years, 8 charges. Julieta Gonzalez Santonia, 25 years, 3 charges. Julie Rutter, 49 years, 2 charges. Dwight Wisdom, 31 years, 14 charges. And Nigel Worrell, 38 years, 5 charges. In addition to yesterday's arrests, investigators also located 1,236.73 grams of cocaine and $10,400 in proceeds. Nigel Worrell stands charged in relation to the seizure. There still remains people outstanding as a result of this project, and I will identify them to you here. Now, their pictures, I'm not sure, have they been flipping through, or they're going to come up now? Okay. These individuals are wanted in the warrants for the first for or crime-related charges. Sedonic Atkins, 21 years, 13 charges. Bismarck Barrett, 22 years, 4 charges. Devon Brumble, 20 years, 13 charges. McKeel Davey, 23 years, 7 charges. Ernesto Gale, 36 years, 4 charges. Carl Sangs, 27 years, 85 charges. Terrell Turner, 21 years, 4 charges. Irene West, 30 years, 3 charges. Simply put, I recommend that these wanted individuals contact investigators and make arrangements to turn themselves in. In addition to the 8 individuals who are currently under arrest that occurred yesterday as a result of that operation, and the 8 who are outstanding, who I've just identified to you, there are 9 other individuals that are currently in custody on unrelated matters. They consist of 6 adults and 3 young persons who will be facing a total of 48 related charges. Those individuals will be brought before the courts and formally charged within the next couple of weeks. The total arrests and charge count that can be attributed to Projects Brazen and Quell and the hard work and dedication of these 2 investigators with the team that assisted them equates to 41 accused persons that we allege are members of the Orton Park and Galloway Boys who stand charged with 417 criminal code related offenses as described earlier. My investigators will continue to investigate, analyze, and correlate information and the evidence to further these investigations and to identify other events that may have been committed at the hands of this group or the individuals that are associated to them. I encourage anyone that has information that may assist us in these investigations to come forward and to contact a member of the Homicide Squad at 416-808-7400 or by contacting Crime Stoppers at 416-222-TIPS. I also encourage anyone that has information in relation to the homicide of Dimitri Barnaby to come forward and provide this information to the officers in charge of these projects so that this investigation can be brought to a successful conclusion. As I said earlier, Detective Sergeant Dave Eklund, he can be reached at 416-808-7400, extension 77423, and Detective Jeff Allington of number 43 Division at 416-808-4300. Your information is extremely valuable to us, and we'll do anything in our power to ensure your safety and your security. Without your cooperation and the cooperations of the members of our communities, these violent offenders will continue to victimize them and their communities, impacting their overall sense of safety and security where they live and where they work. Any piece of information, no matter how small or insignificant it may seem, may be of great value to my investigators, and we cannot do this without your assistance. Again, I thank you for attending here today to carry this message forward to the members of our communities. I will attempt to answer any questions. However, as I've stated before, these charges are currently before the courts, and I will not get into the fabric of these investigations or the minutiae or details of the evidence.
Inspector, from CB24.
Yes.
In the days and weeks and months after Project Travel, there was a lot of, after the arrests were made and the announcements were made here, there was a lot of community outreach that was happening within the Somali community. Is there a similar kind of thing happening in the wake of all these arrests within this neighborhood and within the gang culture there?
We're going to be working closely. As you know, this is a homicide divisional response to these investigations and these events. I know that number 43 Division, Superintendent Mark Fenton, has been working with the community there. There was a lot of community work that was done as a result of the Danzig barbecue shooting, and I would suggest that there's an overlap between these projects and the project that we ran in relation to the Danzig barbecue. So absolutely, that job never stops. That's something that we continue to do on a daily basis, and it's important, as I say, to have the members of the community have faith and trust in the police, because we're working diligently to try to root out the criminals and the drug dealers and the people that are responsible for violent crime.
Are all of the people arrested, and would you be arrested in phase 1 and 2 facing criminal organization charges? Every
Yes,
one of them?
yes.
How much of a dent have you actually made in these 2 gangs?
Well, I would suggest that the numbers that I speak of today, in addition to the numbers that we brought in as a result of the Danzig homicide shooting or murder, these numbers are significant, and I could say that the impact would be huge. As to whether or not the gang is going to continue to survive within the community, that's something that we'll have to wait and see. But I think that it's going to have a heavy impact on their activity.
You say that Barnaby was a case of mistaken identity. Do you know if, do you guys believe that the shooter thought he was on the Galloway side or the Orton Park side?
I'm not going to divulge what was in the mind of the offenders at the time. I don't know the answer to the question, and if I did, I wouldn't be able to say because it may impact the prosecution of the case.
Are you alleging that there might have been a leadership struggle as a reason, as a motive for Barnaby's?
When you say leadership, when I think of leadership struggle, I think of a contained violence and stuff going on amongst one gang. This was two separate gangs that were struggling for domination over a particular area to move forward with their drug trade. So as to whether or not there was any hierarchy difficulties going on at the time, I wouldn't be able to comment on that.
Can you talk about how the Danzig barbecue investigation coincided or overlapped with these projects?
Well, we allege, and it'll obviously come out in court, we allege that the individuals that I speak of today, a number of them were associates to or involved in the same gangs that were involved in that particular shooting at the barbecue.
Were any of these at the barbecue themselves, or?
I don't want to get into who was there and who wasn't. That would be inappropriate.
Any of these people charged in the Danzig shootings, though? 'Cause I didn't recognize any of those names.
No, these names are all new, and I wouldn't be able to comment on any case overlap between the people charged on Danzig and charged on this.
Can you tell us, I guess the charges haven't been filed for the people who are in custody already?
The warrants exist, the informations are before the courts, but we have to go through process and get judges' orders and bring them into courts to face the charge.
Their names yet?
I'm not in a position where I want to do that right yet because they're not formally charged.
Inspector, can you characterize the kind of violence that the neighborhood has seen, the nature of these shootings, the impact of that on the community?
Well, the gun violence and the impact that these gangs have had on that community is huge. You know, you just have to look at the papers and look at the carnage that's been left on the streets of Scarborough over the past number of years. The reason they called it Project Brazen was the brazen axe that's behind the character of the individuals that are carrying out these offenses, and I think that this should have an impact on that the community's sense of security and safety, you know, around their houses, because these people have been incarcerated.
Did 43 Division quiet down after the Danzig Street sweeps? Because a lot of the violence you're speaking of happened, you know, 2011 all the way up till Danzig, and just a little bit after that, right?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think I know the answer to the question, but I don't like to give out the answer because I don't want to impact the safety and the security of the people there. And what I mean by that is I don't want to be so bold as to say we've eliminated things, that we've stopped things, because as soon as I say that, something could happen. So I think that, as I said earlier, this is going to have a heavy impact on that community. But I haven't seen a lot of gun violence there, and I say that with caution. You know, I wouldn't want to see any more.
You spoke a great deal about needing the assistance from the community and trusting police. Maybe one of the investigators should speak about this. How much of a challenge does that remain in gathering information and laying and developing an investigation like this, getting people to actually talk? Maybe one of the investigators speak to this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you want to, Detective Sergeant, would you like to come up and answer that question?
But we're always looking for the public to help us out in our investigation, and you know, we're only as good as the information that we receive. So having said that, if anybody does have any information regarding the Dimitri Barnaby homicide, I'd certainly welcome a call from them, and we can go from there.
How much of a challenge, though? I mean, you're having to say, please talk to us. Is it still an issue that people are afraid to talk?
I think it's always going to be an issue that some people are afraid to talk, and that's why I welcome the call, and we can talk about those issues.
Can you speak to why you believe Barnaby was a case of mistaken identity?
Again, that's an ongoing investigation, and there's nobody been charged with that homicide as of yet, so I don't want to speak too much towards the evidence regarding that.
But you obviously wanted out there that this was the wrong guy.
Absolutely. Mr. Barnaby was the wrong place at the wrong time. Certainly that's what our evidence shows. And I think it's important to say that these things happen because what we're dealing with is a lot of drug dealers and alleged gang members. And, you know, as a result of that, we do get people that got caught up in the wrong situation at the wrong time, and there are innocent victims involved in all these offenses. I think that's why it's important to mention that.
The Galloway Boy has been tackled by the police more than once before, and are these guys a new generation, new recruits? Any chance to stop these guys from rebirth?
Well, there's some people that we arrested that we allege are sort of some of the older members, and some are some of the newer ones. But you know, we just got to keep at them and sort of keep taking this monster as it is out by the knees as much as we can.
Are we seeing people who are arrested in the Galloway sweeps from years ago being released from jail and stepping back into the game, so to speak?
I think if you do your research, you're going to see some names that have surfaced before, yes.
Can you simplify for us? We're here today so that you can announce that the one person was mistaken identity and 8 new arrests?
There will be 9 new arrests of people that are currently in custody, yes. And then there's warrants outstanding for 8 other people.
But the point of today is to show that you're going after the Orton Park Gang and the Galloway Boys as criminal organizations, whereas over the last year and a bit, we've only seen the violence-related charges and not the crim org stuff. Is that what we're talking about today?
Multi-prong. Today is multi-prong. It's just get a lot of information out there, again, dealing with the safety and security of the citizens of Toronto, because of Scarborough especially. I mean, we can almost consider them all victims in this when it comes to this level of drug trafficking and violence.
But is your main message to the community, look, we're doing something, now do your part and help us out?
Certainly our message is to the community, as the staff inspector mentioned, that you know we continually do a lot of things behind the scenes that the public may not see every day. And when it comes to sort of ahead as it has today, we want to put that out there and say, look, we are doing stuff. You may not see it every day, but we continue to do stuff. And certainly we like to have the trust of the public on our side. And if that sort of encourages somebody to call us and speak to us about what they may know and what we can do to help them, we certainly welcome that call. And if that works, then we've achieved our goal at the end of the day.
We had the big walkthrough, I think it was September of last year, talking about the Barnaby case, and then we walked through Danzig later that day, and the big message was, look at all the bad things the Galloway Boys have done over the last year. What's changed between now and then that these criminal organization charges are being laid now?
Well, it's the cultivation of information, and we have to maintain a certain threshold before we can file charges. And as I said earlier, in consultation with the Scarborough Crown's Office, or Toronto East Court's Crown's Office, we've established the grounds to arrest these individuals and put them before the courts on these criminal charges.
What can this mean for them? What does it mean if you're charged with criminal organization in terms of jail time, that sort of thing?
These are very serious offenses. I'm not sure the specifics on what the sentencing structure is for them, but if found guilty, they could be looking at a serious amount of time incarcerated for these offenses. And it also goes as a message to those that want to fill the voids of those that are in jail. We take this very seriously. We'll investigate it, we'll show our due diligence, and we'll make sure that offenders are prosecuted for their criminal behavior. And these are very serious charges.
The 8 outstanding individuals, do you believe they might be still in the community, in the area, or?
Well, I can assume yes. In today's, with this media conference and with today's technology, I'm sure they're within an earshot, and they're going to know in the next couple hours that they're being hunted, and they'll be located, they'll be arrested, and they'll be prosecuted. So, as I said earlier, I just recommend that they just give us a call and turn themselves in.
How successful have you been on getting convictions in the past of criminal organization charges?
Our guns and gangs unit work these types of offenses more than I and the Homicide Squad do. I know that there has been success on some of these major projects that have been investigated and taken down over, say, the last 5 to 7 years. There's been some significant accomplishments. But as I said, there's always someone that's going to step up to the plate to fill the void and keep us working on making sure the communities are safe. So. Yeah, there's been great success.
How big are these gangs?
Couple more.
How many members?
It's hard to say. Every gang is different. There's some groups out there that don't have a gang name that are acting together and committing crimes. There's others that consist of bigger numbers. I would suggest, and I can be corrected if I'm wrong, that the ones that have been around the longest seem to have more members. The ones that have been unchecked by any police enforcement action probably have larger numbers.
What are these specific to gangs? How
I don't know. I don't know the exact numbers. Today we talk about 41 individuals, 7 of which were Orton Park, identified as Orton Park guys. So the remaining bunch are Galloways. That's a significant size gang, in my opinion, and they're all charged. They've been identified and charged, and we'll have to see how we make out in court. Obviously, they're all innocent until proven guilty, but we're going to do the best we can to put the evidence before the courts to hold them responsible.
Such a large number arrested, would you say that these gangs are dead?
That's a pretty bold statement. I can't say that. I would, as I said earlier, I think that this enforcement action has put a significant impact on them. But to say they've been eradicated or they're dead, I can't go that far to say that.
Detective Allington, can you speak a little bit about how you've seen the landscape of 43 Division change over the last year since the Danzig shooting?
I haven't reviewed any crime statistics or anything like that, but I can tell you that since the Danzig shooting and since the completion of Project Brazen, there has been a significant reduction in the number of gun crimes that I have seen, and the significant number in reduction of guns that were seized and came into at least 43 Division off the street. I can't speak to what any other units such as the drug squad or guns and gangs may have seized, but certainly at the divisional level, I noticed there was a drop in crime.
So you think that Project Brazen sort of hit them where it hurts, and now it's just you guys are coming back for one last bang kind of thing?
I think Project Brazen certainly reduced the crime, and I think by Project Quell coming in where it has, it should continue to keep the crime reduced and continue to keep gang members in jail.
Would you say that Project Quell is sort of a better be safe than sorry? You know, the violence is down, but let's just make sure it stays there?
I would like to see it stay there, and I think the people in the city of Toronto, particularly in Scarborough, would like to see it stay there as well.
Inspector McLane, one of the underlying charges is cocaine trafficking. Do you have a message for people in the city who may purchase or consume drugs about how they may fuel this?
Well, there's a direct correlation between the crime that goes on in an area and the consumption of the demand for drugs in the area. There's always been a correlation between those two things. The important thing too is the Toronto Police Service expels a lot of resources and money to investigate, and in an attempt to reduce the drug trafficking and the drug volume within the city as they do nationally. So the problem we have, I guess, is that when we operationalize like this and we arrest all these people, there's always someone that steps up to take the void, and that's something we have to be cognizant of, and we have to ensure that we identify those individuals as soon as we possibly can, and then conduct investigations and try to hold them responsible for their criminal activity. It's just an ongoing, thing.
Last question?
That's it? Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.